Here's the thing I want us to get our minds around as we jump into this huge question of why do we exist? And the truth about probably every great endeavor or quest in your life or in the world in general starts with questions, right? When you say something, ask this question like, "Will you marry me?" Right? Big quest, big journey coming on the backside of that question. At some point, someone was like, "You know what? I wonder if we could shoot somebody to the moon. I wonder if we could go to space." All these great quests, they start with huge questions, and I think oftentimes even some of the great quest to see truth and mercy and justice and things, see more of heaven come to earth, right? At some point, people started asking questions like, why are we having people that are black and white eat in different places, right? Why don't we have equal rights for women? All these huge world-changing type journeys and quests, they began by people asking questions. And so as we look at our life, I think at some point, right, if you're listening to this podcast, you're watching this podcast, thank you for those that have been subscribing to the YouTube channel, by the way. It's great to see that grow. If you didn't know, you can watch the podcast each and every week on YouTube if you want, or you can keep downloading the audio wherever you grab that. But if you're listening or watching to the podcast, you're asking questions or you're at least curious about the purpose of your life. That's what we talk about, right? The whole purpose of this podcast is to awaken you to become who God's created you to be. And one of the first and probably deepest questions that we have to grapple with is like, why do I exist? And that's huge. And if you don't know the answer to that, right, your life basically, at least the danger there is that you could be being controlled by circumstances, emotions, other people's opinions. You could be basing the foundation of your life on lies. And when you don't start from the place of asking those type of questions and knowing that you have found good answers, where you end up could be massive. I remember somebody telling me about the idea of a cross-country flight. Maybe you've heard this illustration before, right? That if you're flying from New York to LA, right, you don't have to be way off in your heading, right? You can be just a few ticks off to the right or to the left. And if you're flying for 30 miles, not that big of a deal. You'll probably find the airport you're looking for. But if you're off just a few degrees and you're flying from New York to LA, after that, 3,000 whatever mile flight, you're not going to be anywhere close to LA, right? All of a sudden you're going to be like, man, it looks a little cold and mountainous, kind of like Alaska. That's where we are, right? And what I don't want for you is to spend, depending how old you are, maybe you're 17 years old listening to the podcast, right? Maybe you're 27 years old. Maybe you're 37 years. It doesn't matter where you are, but what I don't want is for you to be living your life even one more day, and you might just be a few ticks off of understanding what your true north is, understanding what your actual purpose for existing is. And I don't want you to end up in a proverbial, Alaska of your life if you're supposed to be, a San Diego, California type of person. And so as we're looking at this, we're going to make sure that we get the questions asked and answered in the right way. So the first one we're going to talk about is this. We're going to talk about why we exist. Then we're going to ask the question, who, right, am I? And then the last question we're going to deal with is, what do I do with my life? And asking these questions in this order makes a huge difference. And I hope to unpack that for you in these 3 episodes.